in terms of the different phases of this illness, and I've heard it talk. I've heard of lots of people speaking about being in remission, and not from what I understand, there's not a huge percentage of people that fully recover. How likely is remission, and is it possible to fully recover from this? And one of the things I'd add to that as well was are there factors that, because obviously everyone is different, are there specific factors such as gender or age that play a part in that?
Yeah. So the official word for those that have been diagnosed with ME/CFS, from the UK ME Association, who've done a lot of studies, and is that for 95% it's lifelong. In other words, you have to live with the illness. That doesn't mean to say you can't have a constructive life. My daughter's essentially done 3 tertiary qualifications, taken longer period of time, and so she's still living with the disease every day, but she's got a constructive life. And I think that's where the emphasis probably is better. As I've said, with the long COVID situation, because of when the diagnosis was made, I think that's a total different confusion. I think we will see a proportion of long COVID people recovering. And there's estimates coming out now, and they vary widely depending on which report you read, but it could be as many as 50% recovering within a year. And so, we don't really know the answer, but really what I'd like to do is to change the narrative to how do we help people live constructive lives and get the fulfillment out of what they have got available to them. When I look at my young university women's group, they can walk around campus, they maybe go to one yoga session a week, and half the time just lie there and do nothing, but that's good for them. They can go to most of their classes and whatever. Now, what's the comparison with their fellow students? Their fellow students go out drinking heavily, as students do, don't live healthy lifestyles, So it's shifting living a healthy lifestyle back, And as Thomas said, the meditation and things like that, healthy diets and things like that, which are good for all of us. ME, CFS people are using it, and that makes their life, better. And the important thing for people like me, and also, clinicians and whatever, is to try and find more strategies which will help patients, get benefit and make their lives kind of easier to live in, so they can do more, get more fulfillment out of it. That's how I like to see the kind of thing, rather than talk about, am I going to go into remission? Of course, there are examples of people who say they've gone into total remission, and they're really interesting people for me to study to see what's actually happened to their body physiology. I have to say that, but they're rare at the moment. Often people say to me too that I've recovered, and then I talk to them, so older people, and what I realise, they've adjusted to living with their illness, and incrementally that it's improved, and they can do things. But when I ask them questions, can you stay up late at night? Well, no. Can you do this? No. They've still actually got the disease, but they've risen above it mentally to think they're able to do, useful things and live normal lives, which is great if one can achieve that.
From my experiences, just to share my story, so I had chronic fatigue syndrome from when I was about 18 until 25. Tried all kinds of things that didn't work, ups and downs for me. I was still pushing quite hard, I'm a musician, teaching and playing music. Probably I should have gone a little bit easier, and that might have helped more with the remission. In the end, I tried, my dad's a microbiology background, and we wondered if it might have been from brucellosis, which is a bacteria that I picked up, blasted my body with antibiotics for 6 months. And amazingly, it did help seemed to help me, but I got depression in the meantime for the first time ever, so I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. Interesting trade-off. Then I got long COVID, as it happens from, I strongly suspect, from the vaccine, and that seems quite common for people with ME/CFS to have a relapse. I think it's around a third of people, a quarter of people. And I've just taken it so easily. I moved back in with my parents for those parents who are wondering about the, independence. It was great. I had my independent years. I came back home, just rested absolutely for about a year and a half. And I'm not sure exactly why, but the last 2 or 3 months I've been doing a lot better. So definitely not a complete remission. Always got that limit. But like you say, definitely the cognitive, and this is going from being totally, sitting in a darkened room on a chair for most of the time, doing at least, like you say, I think you said before, Warren, it seems to be reversible, and totally agree with that acceptance. And for me, the second time round, as a slightly older person, probably helpful, just working so much more on relaxation and pacing.
You may know I've advocated, with the Ministry of Health, and also wrote to the Prime Minister's office about the vaccination adverse reactions. And great frustration. Everyone agreed. I put in an evidence-based paper, but no one had the courage to actually do anything about give, vaccine exemptions to further vaccinations for ME people that were affected. So, we have to deal with these frustrations, unfortunately.
I just did want to add, though, Tom, that one of the things that we have found that has been a real positive in our family is learning to listen to your body. And that is something that a 14-year-old boy, I can tell you, it is not a natural state to listen to your body. But he is slowly learning to do that. And we have noticed as a family that is something we're all starting to do more, and responding if we just noticing if you feel tired and thinking about taking care of yourself. And I think that's something that is a positive that can be taken from it.
So sorry, just because it's such a good. I'm really sorry to interrupt. Just the absolute best pacing thing that I've heard that really resonated with a lot of people is, you've just done something. You ask yourself, could I do the same again? And if the answer is no, then you've done too much. I find that a really helpful one.